It's 1986 and Clifford Stoll is sitting at his desk running through everybody's computer time. Back in 1986, this was recorded just like financials at large companies. On one of his first passes through the accounts, they didn't balance. Someone owed 75 cents, and there was no record of who. His supervisor told him it was probably a system glitch and not worth chasing. Stoll decided to check the logs anyway, mostly out of habit. The 75 cents traced back to a user account called Hunter. No one at the lab had created it. No department claimed it. Stoll assumed at first that it was probably a colleague or a student testing something they weren't supposed to touch. That kind of thing happened often enough on shared academic systems. So he looked at what Hunter had actually been doing with that computer time. The account wasn't being used to do anything on Berkeley's own systems. It was being used to connect out through Berkeley into other networks entirely. Specifically, into US military and defense-related computer systems. Whoever it was moved carefully. No crashes, no obvious damage, nothing that would trip the basic alarms systems had at the time. Just quiet, repeated access. Stoll had two options: close the account and patch the access point, or leave it open and keep watching to see what it was actually after. He left it open, a decision that would bust this story wide open. For the better part of a year, Stoll turned tracking this account into a full-time, unofficial job on top of his real one. He rigged dot matrix printers to log every keystroke the account made in real time, so there'd be a paper record no matter what happened on screen. He built an alarm, a pager wired to the system that would wake him up whenever the account logged in at any hour, so he could watch the session live instead of finding out after the fact. He slept in the office more nights than not. Over those months, a pattern became clear. The account was moving through Air Force bases, Army systems, and defense contractor networks. And in each one, it was searching for very specific kinds of files. Anything related to missile systems, nuclear material, or a program called SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative. Stoll brought this to the FBI. Their early response was that the case didn't meet the dollar loss threshold. They needed to open a full investigation. The CIA said domestic networks weren't their jurisdiction. Nobody Stoll spoke to had handled anything like this before, so nobody was quick to take it on. So Stoll kept logging every session, every command, every file the account touched, on paper, in binders, night after night. Each time he traced the connection back through the network, it went further than the last. Out of Berkeley, across the country, through another research network, through a satellite relay, and out, past US borders entirely. The connection just kept getting harder to fully pin down because it never stayed connected long enough for a complete trace. Stoll had no idea, yet, who was actually on the other end of it. But on the other side of that connection, somebody had a very clear idea of what they were doing. While Stoll was rigging alarms in California, on the other side of the Atlantic, a computer science student named Marcus Hess was working out of Hanover, West Germany. Hess wasn't operating entirely alone. According to later investigations, he was part of a small circle of hackers connected loosely to West Germany's early computer underground. People who'd built up serious technical skill, experimenting on systems they had no authorization to touch. What made Hess different from most of that scene wasn't just skill. It was who he was reportedly answering to. Investigators later determined that Hess had a connection running to the KGB through an intermediary, someone acting as a handler, paying for specific kinds of material, American military research, defense contractor data, anything touching US missile defense programs. For Hess, this wasn't random curiosity. It was closer to a job. Get in, find something valuable, get it out, get paid, and stay quiet enough not to get noticed doing it. And for a long stretch of 1986 into 1987, that's exactly what happened. Session after session into different American research and military networks, using Berkeley's system as one of several routes in, never staying connected long enough, as far as Hess could tell, for anyone to trace it back to a phone line in Hanover. As far as he knew, this was working. What he didn't know was that every one of those sessions was being printed out, keystroke by keystroke, on a dot matrix printer 8 time zones away. By this point, Stoll had briefed the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and West German authorities, since the trail seemed to consistently route through West Germany. The technical problem was straightforward. Getting a full trace on an international connection in 1986 required the intruder to stay on the line continuously for a fixed amount of time. And this account never stayed logged in that long, so Stoll built something to hold its attention. He created a set of fake documents, made to look like real classified paperwork connected to the Strategic Defense Initiative. Convincing sounding names, realistic formatting, enough specific sounding detail to seem valuable, and no real information in any of it. He planted the files where the account would find them and waited. From Hanover, it must have looked like the best night of the whole operation. A file that finally looked like the real thing. Proper program names, proper formatting. Exactly the kind of material worth the risk. Hess stayed on, reading longer than he ever had before. That was long enough. The trace completed. The connection was coming from a residence in Hanover, West Germany. The person behind the account was Marcus Hess. Hess had spent close to a year moving through American research and military networks, and the material he was collecting wasn't for himself. He was selling it to the KGB. West German authorities arrested Hess not long after the trace was confirmed. His case became one of the first documented instances of state-directed computer espionage, a category of crime that, up to that point, barely had a name. Stoll later published a full account of the investigation in a book, The Cuckoo's Egg, which became one of the earliest widely read case studies in computer security, largely because there wasn't anything else like it to compare it to yet. None of this would have surfaced if the initial 75-cent discrepancy had been written off, which is what almost happened. The entire case started from an amount of money too small for anyone to reasonably investigate, and ended with the identification of an active foreign intelligence operation running through American research computers.